All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are in the world. I'm here with a very close friend, a very incredible mentor to me, and someone I was really inspired, and I'm still inspired today by everything you know, Wendy. So thank you for being on the call today. Wendy is CMO of TigerConnect. Thank you for being with us.
You know, I couldn't be more happy to spend time with one of my favorite people, Karim, who inspires me to be better at everything I do.
Oh, thank you. Let's not focus on compliments today and talk about what is extremely important for everyone around the world today, which is the statement I'm going to give you today, which is work is not working. Work is not working for so many people across different organizations, different industries, and different countries. But I'm trying to understand the why. And I would love to hear your thoughts about this statement. What do you think?
I think that we are suffering from a collective state of exhaustion, and work feels hard because of that, right? For me in marketing, it's the constant pace of the technology changes. It's the constant pace of kind of our growth and our aspirational goals versus our desire, especially as executives, to give our people room to deal with everything that's happening in the world and in their personal lives right now. And so that constant tug of war between let's go fast and grow our company and let's also be really empathetic leaders is just causing exhaustion for everybody.
That's incredible to hear. Actually, I have a question because you mentioned the executive or as a leader. I was reading some surveys recently that said that the pandemic has helped so many leaders become less tired and more happy with their jobs. But on the opposite side, team members are the one that are getting the most tired because they wanted maybe more collaboration or wanted more interaction with the teams. Is that the case for you? What do you think about this?
I'm going to answer that from two perspectives. One is a personal perspective, being a mom. I had my oldest move home during the pandemic, and I saw from her perspective, just the not feeling connected with her peer group and the people at work. I think she's 23, and there is something about being 23 that you want to be having lunch with somebody and meeting new people and traveling and doing new things. And that the collective, not having that was very, very hard on her for the last year. And then, so I watched that, but on my perspective, as a more senior, seasoned business person, I got a lot out of the last year. All the time that I put into business travel, commuting to and from my office, was spent instead actually getting actual 8 hours of sleep most nights. It was spent bringing in new hobbies into my life that I wasn't spending 2 to 3 hours commuting, or, in the case of, for me, 2019, I traveled like 16 weekends out of the year. Complete weekends were shot like on a business trip, traveling back and forth to Europe. That time was reinvested in me. And so I think there's a little bit of both for everybody.
Absolutely. Has this changed actually your hiring strategy? Because now you have seen remote working. We all have seen it. What did it change in terms of the hiring strategy?
Oh, well, that's an easy one, right? If you change from being an all in the office strategy to hire the best talent anywhere, it's very dramatic, hiring strategy shift. And mostly our company has done that. We have, prior to me joining, the company was almost exclusively an in-office culture. And now we're switching to a hire talent where they are culture. So I'm a good example of this. I'm on the executive team of the company. I don't live in Santa Monica, which is Southern California, where the company is. Actually, when I took the job, I lived in Seattle, and I made the life choice of moving to Northern California, which is an 8-hour drive away from my company, to be close to my husband's family. And so we made a big life choice, right? But I couldn't have done that without the company deciding that they wanted the best talent wherever it was found. And that's my hiring strategy too. And that impacts budgets. It impacts how you think about how you communicate with teams, how you create collaboration and culture, how you, get people connected to the company culture, and also getting them passionate about their work when they're at a distance. There's a lot of changes it implies.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest one also that we want to talk maybe about is the goals, and how do you set goals? Because when you are in the same office, there's a relationship that matters. There's a lot of other things that matter to how everyone is performing. But then when you are remote, there's almost like one piece, which is, okay, I'm going to give you maybe the context, and then you go and figure it out. And we talk about goals here. We talk about metrics. We talk about outcomes. Have you shifted as well, or have you seen this shift in terms of how do you monitor performance in the team with the remote culture?
I've managed globally distributed teams my whole career. So for me personally, probably not as much, because I've had to learn that really strong importance of the one-on-one, no matter of the time zone shift. And like, you and I were lucky enough to work in the same office for a while, but many of my employees and my roles have been on, 12-hour time difference or 16-hour time difference, right? And so you think about the importance of the one-on-one time. You think about the importance of the team building time, and you also have to think about the importance of the visibility for employees who are in remote situations. For example, I know you're down in Australia. One of our really important team members was in Australia. So we had him film his monthly update for the company, and we would play it in the middle of our monthly update meeting, just to make sure that he got equal visibility as to the person who was leading the Americas region. And so we didn't tilt one way or the other in terms of not giving people the opportunity to shine, to get that executive visibility, to have a role just because they're in a different time zone. So like a lot of smart things you can do collaboration wise, using asynchronous technology like Slack, or our product is TigerConnect, allows people to work outside of org boundaries or across time zones equally as well.
We mentioned technology, and that is an extremely important topic for a lot of the experts that are talking about Great Resignation as one of the biggest pieces of the reason why people are starting this resignation, or what I would call as well the migration from a company to another, from an industry to another, but also obviously from a location to another. Do you see this as a bigger and bigger problem that you feel some people are leaving the business for? Like, okay, maybe giving an example here, I'm going to leave this company because they are not innovating enough, or I'm going to leave them because they are not using the tech stack that I want to be using in general, that is not effective for me, or whatever.
You bet. I mean, you've nailed it. The tech stack is important. The FOMO, the fear of missing out, or even the employee's true belief that I can be more productive if I have the tools to do my job. It's an important decision, right? Like, we're going through a discussion right now at our executive team level. What's the right, office platform? Is it Google or is it Office 365? How do we collaborate? What are the 6 tools the sales team needs so they can feel like I am a world-class seller in a, sales 2.0 environment? These things are very important management discussions, because people have a choice. They have a lot of choice. The job market has never been hotter, and you need to, be developing your culture and developing, passion in your employees, but you also need to arm them with the things they need to feel really good about the work environment.
Have you seen a shift in who is deciding these platforms? You mentioned management discussing these platforms, but where is the advice coming from? Who is kind of like pushing for different software in the business?
No, it's absolutely the employees who raise things up. Like, I look at my own, tech stack for marketing. I might be like, I'm super, me, I'm super inquisitive. So I'm reading everything. And I was like, oh, what about this tool? Or what about that tool? I probably have my eyes are bigger than my budget always. But, frankly, it's the employees who hear about things in their Slack group that they belong in with all their industry peers, or who read great things on LinkedIn, or even just new employees coming in who said, oh, I've used this thing someplace else and we need to be there. You have to listen to that.
So we mentioned software, we mentioned values, obviously how important it is for us to work for companies that have the same maybe values. and
Yep.
how this has shifted. Again, I'm using a lot of the word shifting, but it feels like everything is shifting. So back to this question. So like we spoke about software, we spoke about values. What are the main things that are connecting us with the company we're working for right now with the remote culture?
Yeah. I think you have to, assess for yourself, what is it about work that excites you? Is it being a mission-driven organization, like you're working on something that has a life-changing, planet-changing, industry-changing impact? Like I work now in healthcare, and I do that because right before I joined this company, my father almost died of COVID, was hospitalized for almost a month, and it was really eye-opening. And I decided I really wanted to come and help be part of changing healthcare. So that gives you like passion for life-changing experience. But you could just really want to work on, in your functional area, the most innovative company in your space. If you're a coder, you might want to work at a company that is, doing super innovative coding so you can really polish your skills. Or maybe you want to just, have a sense of like, I want to work for a local company with, local values. Like one of my good friends just left an international company. They live in France. They really wanted to work for a French company with the French culture and the French values. And like every piece of this is individual decision about what fits for you in terms of your passions. But those decisions are being made. There is a reason why they're calling it the Great Resignation. People are very much taking this very seriously.
Are you afraid of the Great Resignation yourself for your business?
I'm always afraid, but and I think it's because you want to keep the momentum you're building around new innovations or new go-to-market, et cetera. And so when a key member of your team leaves, it does slow things down, right? Hopefully you developed a broader set of talent in your team that you can look left and right and people can pick it up. On the other hand, me, I'm also so excited for people when they get career-changing opportunities or life-changing opportunities. I just had someone on the team who was working in a more of a digital marketing role get a great product marketing job that they've always wanted, and I just didn't have a spot for them. So you have to just say, I'm so excited for you to be moving your career forward. So it's it's a yin and yang. It's both.
So actually, like with everything we're saying, is the Great Resignation a real thing? Is it not a natural thing that has been happening all the time, and now we're talking more about it, which make people like think about it more often?
I think it's the pent-up demand. People felt a little hostage during the pandemic. There was so much fear and uncertainty that people probably didn't change jobs even when they wanted to during that period. So there was that. There's the great, economic growth that's happening right now, that is from the consumer confidence resurgence that's happening right now. So there's great economic growth happening. And so there's more opportunity. And, the workforce is retiring. The older part of the workforce is retiring. So there's more mobility. So yes, it is happening. Absolutely.
Right. So I've been reading a lot about it. And obviously, we hear a lot about the culture, the values. We spoke about the software. But one thing that has been also tackled very often, and you see a lot of companies in software, especially talking about that concept, which is alignment. Some people are leaving companies because they feel they are not aligned and they are overworked, burnout from the workload. And all of it is coming from that misalignment between teams or miscommunication between teams. What do you think of this specific part of the reasons?
It's true. I think it is happening, and any company, even really well-run companies, you still see this, right? And I think that's where I said at the beginning of the top of this, it's like collective exhaustion that makes us all hypersensitive to these things. And that's why as a leader, like empathy, making sure that you're constantly thinking about the impact of things you're asking the team. Like we've had hard discussions about don't send emails in the evenings, don't send, instant message emails, and I'm trying to do that, but I'm also taking a break for an hour during the day. And sometimes I'm catching up in the evening. So I'm thinking about using things like email schedulings or message scheduling things, because I don't want to create more stress on the environment. The stress on the environment is real. People do feel it. Doesn't matter how well funded you are. Especially if you're a startup, your ambitions are always going to be bigger than your budget. Your ambitions are always going to be bigger than your team size. And you're going to hire collectively, like your culture is going to lean towards that. It's going to create that.
All right, I'm going to do something that you always did to me when I was working for you. Every time I was coming, I was telling you a lot of stuff. You would say, okay, what are the top 3 things that you want to be, that you want us to change? So what are the top 3 things that you want companies to change to avoid anything around, at least like minimize the Great Resignation?
Yeah. I think companies need to be very clear about their cultural values and stick to them. Even in, periods of uncertainty, right? Be very clear who you are and who you want to be. That's 1. 2 is you need to have leaders that lead with empathy. Like we think about things like wellness days and employee benefits and how to, communicate priorities in such a clear way. That's super important because we don't want to add to the stress. And then the 3rd thing is be really, really clear about your talent strategy. And what I mean by that is, think hard about, are you a hybrid, back to the office or remote work? And be clear about it and stick to it. But also remember that there's great talent out there and it's not always sitting in your backyard.
These were so good as a top 3 for companies. I'm going to do the same maybe question now and then say, what are your top 3 advice for employees who are trying to look for another job and think about the Great Resignation right now?
Yeah, it's hard to interview prospective companies for culture, but there's a lot of ways you can do that in terms of asking questions about like how are objectives set, how are budget sets, how are decisions made. Do those things, right? Go into it super clear about the kind of environment you want to plug into and the kind of leaders you want to work with and for. Like that's important. I think also, having your own values straight. I talked about, I picked up my whole family and moved 1,000 miles to be down the street from my aging mother-in-law and near my family. Be clear what your values are, because there's opportunities everywhere, and so don't sacrifice too much. So I think that's another one. And then the 3rd one is like, take risks and experiment. I'm in my 50s and I'm taking risks and experimenting still. And, if I can do that, people that are coming up in their career can as well. There's just so much opportunity out there that you don't need to be afraid to take a risk on a startup or take a risk on a job that you may not be a perfect fit for.
Wow, these are even more amazing than the first top 3. So thank you so much. I think this is a lot of value for everyone listening, especially if they are employees looking for different jobs now. We've been talking for 15 minutes almost right now, but maybe a last question I wanted to ask you is, where do you see the world of work in maybe 5 years from now? And what are your biggest predictions or the boldest predictions that you want to make?
Yeah, people think right now that employees are snapping back. The rubber band is pulling back people into the office, or I've heard crazy things like, yes, you can move to Idaho, but we're going to lower your salary because it's a lower cost of living. And, my take is those companies who think this way are going to miss out on the talent and the employee love that translates also into customer growth and customer love, and they better watch it. So I think the tip of the iceberg has just happened in terms of power shifting to the employees and creating a great employee environment. I think that's just going to expand over the next 5 years.
The labor market has completely changed. Companies with fixed mindsets really have to watch out and be careful to their future.
100%.
Absolutely. Amazing. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much, Wendy. It was great to see you again after all these years. So thanks again.
Thanks, Karim.